Good afternoon, Flosstube. This is Michelle at the Stripe Rose, and today is Monday the 15th, and this is my ninth podcast. Thank you for everybody who remembered my podcast. Um, I meant to come back in December, I really did, but December just gets out of control. The girls didn't even have a dance recital this December, and things still got out of control. I got sick towards the end of the month. The girls got sick, Jerry got sick, all different things, of course. So I'm back now, and I want to show you what I finished in December. I want to show you what I've started this January, this year, what I'm working on, what my rotation looks like so far, and some projects that I want to start. I'm not going to do a year in review because I didn't get all the stuff together, and that's the reason. So, in December, I threw my rotation out the window because I wanted to work on Christmas pieces, and also because I wanted to see how many things I could just finish up. I don't have as many whips as some people, and part of that reason is because I don't know how many whips I have because I refuse to count. So, but I probably don't have 100. I don't know. No, I'm not even going to guess. So I don't go super crazy thinking, oh, I've got to finish this year. I've got to clear everything out, start the new year fresh. I don't do that. But I do get a little bit, I could probably knock a few things out. So the first thing that I finished was, Adam and Eve by the Scarlet House. Let's see. I used silks, mostly silks for you. I did use one NPI silk. And I finished it up. Now, I did have a little flap on Instagram, and you're not going to be able to see it. But at some point, I noticed that the top of the sampler, some of the red silk had bled. Now, to be honest, I don't know who's to blame. It could be me because I do stitch in hand, and when I stitch in hand, I roll up the top part of my work and I hold on to it. So is it possible that I'm a sweaty beast and I sweat all over my cross stitch? I've never noticed that before. I always wash my hands before I cross stitch, but I dry them off really well because I've been working with over dyed threads for 15 or more years. If my hands still feel damp, I'll knit a few rows on a sock because there's always a sock sitting next to me. I try to be conscious of not having wet hands. Did I mess up one day and come to this with wet hands? That's a possibility. I have a ton of this red silk for you silk. I'm going to use it again because it's the absolute perfect red for me. I'm just going to be very, very mindful. So when I started this sampler, I had asked the lady, I can't remember her name, at Silks for You, to help me come up with some matches. I picked out the red and the green, and that was pretty easy. But I don't know if you can see what I used for the, well, it's yellow, isn't it? It's a beige color, and it has little bits of like a opally, purpley pink in it. And I was looking at it and I thought that is some really odd skin color. And you know, if you've stitched a lot of Adam and Eve samplers, or if you've seen a lot of Adam and Eve samplers, they have some really weird skin colors. I mean, some of them look like bubblegum. Some of them look like Oompa Loompas. But this one, I mean, I stitched these people yellow with purple splotches. And I was sitting there thinking, nobody on the face of the earth has skin that color. And I stitched and I stitched, and one day I looked down at my hands and I realized my skin is yellow with purple splotches. This is my skin color. It may not appear that on camera. I get very flushed when I do a podcast, but that's my skin color. I'm yellow with purple splotches. So, who knew? But that's part of the fun of Adam and Eve. Their crazy hair, their crazy hips, their crazy clothes, and their crazy, crazy skin colors, even when they're... And then you realize that you're yellow with purple splotches. That was eye-opening. So I was really upset about the pink splotches, whether it was my fault or the silk's fault. My mother said, hang it high on the wall. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hang it high on the wall. I want all the Scarlet House samplers now. I want to stitch them all. I just loved the simplicity of this. I loved the red. I loved the odd spacing. You know, everything is really crowded over here. And then you have the space. I posted it on Facebook and realized I had forgotten the snake. So I had to put him back in. So I've told you that I showed you a picture of what I think of as my blue sampler wall. And I have some other things that need to be framed and put up there, and some other things that need to be stitched and put up there. This will go on what I think of as my red sampler wall. Now, in reality, there are two samplers on that wall. The Man of Sense sampler that I showed in a previous video, and an all green Quaker sampler, the AY 1801. But it's still my red wall, and that's going to go on my red wall. And I'm going to talk about a new wall that I want to start in a little bit. All right, so the second thing that I finished was Lantern Lane. And I did this as a stitch along with Chelsea and Priscilla. Priscilla and Chelsea. And I dyed some platinum Newcastle, 40 count Newcastle with Rit. And I got I just wanted a neutral brown that wasn't terribly dark, but that the white would show up on, and that's what I got. So I used Belle Soie for the red and the green, the weathered vine. I used Caterpillar for the roof. I used Peanut Brittle, where Peanut Brittle was the suggested over-dyed substitution for the silk. And then Fawn, I bought Fawn as the suggested over-dyed cotton substitution for the silk, and I didn't like it at all. So what I wound up doing in the places that asked for Fawn, which is, I guess, the shutters, I went ahead and did my steps in Peanut Brittle. I guess the shutters was the biggest place that it called for Fawn. I used 438, which looked like it was actually in the same family as Peanut Brittle, so it matched. I went ahead and did my initials in red, even though BMT. The B and the T are backwards. That's good enough for me. I tried to copy the 7 that Priscilla had done, and I really, really enjoyed working on this. I didn't enjoy this top row of leaves. The bottom row of leaves I liked better. I don't know if I had just gotten used to it. I did not stitch one stitch at a time. I know that's been talked about. Priscilla and Chelsea have talked about it recently. Kitten Stitchers talked about it recently. Somebody else I was watching recently was talking about whether or not they do overdyed one stitch at a time. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. It depends on my patience for the day. It depends on how well that particular thread is covering for me, is working for me. What I did on the house and on the, you can see what I did. I would try to do sections where I would just go over with the light, and then I'd just sort of do a section of the brown, of the darker. It's kind of showing up. And that's what I did on the house too. I would just try to do like an uneven, jagged shape with some of the darker reds. You can see right there. Like I did like an uneven, jagged shape with a dark red, filled in around it with a sort of jagged, uneven shape of light red. You can see that. I've done that here too. I think that was the first time I had tried that. and I liked it. I enjoyed that. So thank you, ladies, for such a nice stitch along. A nice no pressure stitch along. I said in my very first video that I'm not a stitch along girl, and I'm really not. It's like I can't do book clubs either. I was in a book club when I was pregnant with Isabella and right after Isabella was born. And for some reason, if the book was chosen for that month, that was the only book in the world that I just did not want to read. It's like defiance disorder or something. If there's a stitch along and we're all going to stitch this, I just can't. I can't bring myself to stitch it. But this was just such a beautiful design. I mean, it's just so classic looking. I really, really enjoyed this, and I enjoyed the stitch along. So that was my second piece that I finished. I get really angsty. Well, I told you last week I take medicine. I get really angsty doing anything. You should have seen me riding the Hogwarts Express in August at Harry Potter World. Yeah, I ran off screaming twice. They told me they would put me in the special car for people like me. It didn't help. That didn't help either. That was complete aside. I get really angsty when I'm about to finish a project. When I start estimating, I've just got a couple of days left on this. I start getting really nervous. I don't know why. You would think that would be a good thing. And that's part of the reason that the idea of a rotation helps me. I'm trying to enter into a conversation here. Teresa of Kitten Stitcher was giving reasons for how she stitches more quickly. And then in her view, she stitches on what she wants to stitch when she wants to stitch. And obviously, once you get going on a piece, I notice this especially with knitting, when you put it down and come back to it, you do have to take some time to readjust, to find your rhythm and your flow again. But for me, I have an opposite view. That works for me. I like to put a piece away and be sad that I'm putting it away and look forward to stitching it again. I do a 3-day rotation. I want to have, my ideal rotation is 8 pieces, 3 days each. And that gives me some wiggle room in case there are some days of the month that I don't stitch. It gives me wiggle room because I really want to do Santa Sundays now. So if I do 2 pieces a week and Santa Sundays, if I have 8 pieces and my Christmas piece, I should be touching everything once a month. And that's my ideal. That is not what I have currently. But 3 days is about what I can do before I start getting frustrated. If I worked on a piece more than 3 days, I would start getting frustrated. I would start getting tense. I would start putting pressure on myself to finish it. So I want to put something away and be sad and be looking forward to picking it up again next month. And then when I do go to pick it up, I'm like, oh, I'm excited. I've been waiting to stitch this again, instead of, oh, I've just got that 1/1 section. And so it's interesting. That's one of the reasons I like Flosstube, is because I like to hear how other people manage their hobby and how many different ways there are to approach stitching. You've got your stitch what you want when you want camp. You've got a strict rotation camp, and then you've got everything overlapping and in the middle, and sometimes I am one extreme or the other, and sometimes I'm everything in the middle. But anyway, so I really, so what I was going to say, my point, Harry Potter train, I don't know. My point was, even though was not doing my 2017 rotation in December, because I was trying to finish up pieces that were almost finished, I did a 2-day rotation. I picked 2 pieces at a time. I'm going to work on this piece for 2 days and this piece for 2 days, alternate them until one of them is done. When one of them is done, I'm going to add another piece I want to finish. 2 days, 2 days, whichever one gets finished first. And I really enjoyed that. I don't think I would enjoy that all year long. It was quick turnaround, but for the end of the year, December, having a bunch of pieces that were almost done, that worked really well for me. Just to have 2, focus on one for 2 days, the other for 2 days, finish one, pull something else in. So that's what I did in December. So Lantern Lane was number 2. Number 3, well, forget everything I just said, because I just worked on this when I wanted to work on it. This wasn't one of the rotation pieces. This, I don't remember the magazine. I know the designer was Little by Little. Not Even a Mouse. And this was after the A&E red silk fiasco. And I'm pretty sure I used the red silk in this. I either used the red silk or I used the same Aztec red that I used in this, which I don't know if I finished this in November or early in December. This was a Blackbird Designs piece from a Just Cross Stitch magazine. And this was a Little by Little Designs company, Cindy or Cynthia Bradford, from a Just Cross Stitch magazine. I used 3371, which I think it was called for. I thought it was interesting with all of the talk of Buffalo Check with Chelsea and Priscilla. I thought that was interesting. Some Buffalo Check. I do have a yellow tabby. I did have 2 yellow tabbies. They were sisters. I have a dark orange one that looks just like this. Well, she doesn't look just like this. She's not a primitive folk art cat, but her fur. This is Amber. I think it's Weeks Dye Works Amber. And I did the same thing I told you I did with Caterpillar and Sister Scarlet. I worked in these like jagged, uneven sections of dark and light. I do have a tabby. I don't photograph her much. She's not very social. I had 2 yellow tabbies. One was dilute. So they looked like they were my oranges and cream, peaches and cream. And they're both females, which apparently I didn't know at the time. Well, I did know at the time. That's when I learned that 80%, I think 80% of yellow tabbies, of yellow cats, are male, and females are rarer. Yellow female tabbies are rare. All right, so that was Amber. I switched up the greens a little bit. I don't remember what I used. And then I put my initials and the date. I almost always, unless the date and the name or initials are in the design, like they were in Lantern Lane, I almost always use 3 letters, MTB, that I got from a JBW, the little cursive script that JBW uses in a lot of her little patterns. I've just always used that if I need to just stick it on somewhere. My mother, she just, it's not done until you put your initials on it. It's not done until it's dated. And that's what my mother told me to do. So I try to do that. And I do like to look at the dates on pieces. I prefer when they're incorporated into the design, but I really, really like this little guy. I mean, he's got these weird eyes, not even a mouse. All right, so that was number 3. Number 4, one of my goals this year had been to work in some old whips that might even be more properly called UFOs. I wanted to casually work them in and get them done. And so I did finish one in December. I finished Lo a Rose. Ooh, looks kind of bad. I wish I had done different fabric. I really do. But it's done. It's done. We sang this on Christmas Eve at the Christmas Vigil. I don't know what that is for. I don't know if I was supposed to put my initials there. I don't know if I was supposed to make a smiley face. I don't know. I don't know what that is. Just an odd little design element. I'm happy with it, and I hope to get it up next year. So yes, it does feel good to finish up old pieces. I'm just gonna have to do it slowly, though. I'm not gonna make myself crazy. I think I showed this. I don't know if I finished that in November or December. This was from, this was from Just Cross Stitch. And the designer, I can't remember the designer. I'm pretty sure that I said the designer in the last podcast. It may even be on my Instagram. All right, so 3 was the cat ornament, 4 was Lo a Rose, 5 was Truly Thankful. What I've done this year for my rotation is I have a slot for autumn pieces. So Sundays are for Santa Sunday, for Christmas pieces. And I have a list of things to pull from. And some of them are winter, like Baby It's Cold Outside. But then for my 3-day rotation, I've got 9 so far on that. But one of them is for autumn pieces. So I wanted to go ahead and finish this. Oh, man. I meant to bring the Valentine one down. This is from Heartstring Samplery. She has a series of 6 designs. This might have been the first one. And then she started making, it's the same words, Let Us Be Truly Thankful. She's got one, I did one for Valentine's. One of the ones I want to do this year is called the May edition. And it is really beautiful flowers, simple flowers all the way around it. But I'd like to leave that out for May, for June. Probably put it back in August. Probably put it back up in August. Then there is an American one for 4th of July. Put that up in July. This one, September, October, November. And then there's a Christmas one. It's got sort of a deer and a poinsettia. So it could be Christmas or January. So if I got them done, I got 2 done last year. I got this one done, and there's also a March-April one. It has a cross and a bunny and a shamrock and a really lovely daffodil. So that could be March and April. And put the flower basket out for May and June. So I'd like to get the May and June one at least done next year. And I brought it to show you my chart. I wanted to bring it to show you my chart. But of course I couldn't find it. I couldn't find my entire Heartstring Samplery folder that I have. So I went ahead and finished that. That was number 5. And then number 6, I finished up Good Deeds. I pulled my fabric too tight. So I pulled this section of her dress out because it's kind of warped. I restitched it very, very loosely, but I still couldn't did I put, yeah, I did. But I still couldn't get it entirely out. I put my color conversion on Instagram, and I think I did it on Facebook. No, I didn't do it on Facebook. Good deeds live long. So I want to frame this up, put it in here in the dining room, right up there where another red sampler is, and then take that and put it on my red wall. And then if I got 2 more things framed, I think I would have like 6 or 7 things on the red wall instead of the 2 that I do now. So I do want to frame this up and get it put in here and move that out. So all right, so that was those are my 6 finishes. My 6 finishes for December. I don't have a count for the year because I just didn't count. I meant to. I'm not opposed to counting my finishes. Oh, man. Oh, man. I just didn't do it. Okay. So, my rotation is my 9 pieces, 3 days each. So a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then a Thursday through Saturday, and then do a Christmas piece on Sunday. Ooh, I just grabbed things so they're not in order. So I made a list of all the Christmas things that I wanted to start eventually in my lifetime and several other lifetimes. I had talked about this before. I think I talked in one of my earlier podcasts about some of the Christmas designs that I really liked. And this one is in, I'm so sorry, it's an out of print Blackbird Designs book. And it is called Let Heaven and Nature Sing. It's not very large. So I started this yesterday. The first Sunday of the year, I didn't have my fabric, so I just worked on something else. But some of these threads are Old Willow Stitchery. One of these threads is Old Willow Stitchery. And I did a whole design once out of that Gift of Stitching digital magazine with Old Willow Stitchery threads, but that must have been 10 years ago. I can't find, I know I didn't have Weeping Willow. I've got a Weeping Willow and something else, but I don't know. It's a pale green. That green right there, you see how pale it is? I tried several greens last night and I couldn't get what I wanted. This is Aztec Red. I have an old Aztec Red that I used for some Christmas ornaments this year, but it wasn't enough for this, so I ordered a new one, and it's like a watermelon Jolly Rancher red. So yesterday I tried several greens, I tried several reds, but this is all that got left in. This is Schneckly. Is it Schneckly? Schneckly. Weeks Dye Works. I'm not thrilled with Weeks Dye Works because they feel, they just feel odd, and they're I don't know if they're twisted more tightly. They're ropey feeling. They don't lie smooth and flat, but I always like the colors. I don't like the feel of the yarn. I don't like the way the thread. I don't like the way the thread lies, but I do like the colors. So this is my start on Heaven and Nature, and it's not a very big piece, so I hope I can get to some of my other Christmas ones. If I work 52 Sundays or so, and the threads are not in there. That'll be interesting next week. All right, so then I had as a goal to work on 2 12-part samplers or designs throughout the year so that they would be finished in December. I've revised that a little bit. Well, actually, I wanted three. I wanted to do the Village of Hawk Run Hollow. I wanted to do Blackbird Designs Garden Club. And then I wanted to do the freebie from several years ago from Plum Street Sampler, 12 Days of Christmas. And right now, 12 Days of Christmas, I decided to not start that one because I was trying to be realistic. All right, so I started Garden Club by Blackbird Designs. I think I started it maybe late in December. And it took a long time. It's nice. Hawk Run Hollow is just one chart. I think I have all but chart 10 of these. So I started with this one, Pretty Southern. Linda Jo at Pretty Southern did this as an individual piece. Of course, I love Nicole's Needleworks too, and it was her finished piece that made me decide to track all these down. I've been pretty fortunate. I think I needed to order 2 of these threads, and then I don't know if I'm going to go across to 2. This would be 2, which is kind of weird. It doesn't really fit with the other ones. Or if I want to go, I'm doing 4 across and 3 down, or if I want to go down and do 5. So I went ahead and ordered, I needed 2 threads for this one and 2 threads for this one. So I went ahead and ordered those, and my plan is to do 1 a month. So here's where I am now, the midway part of the month. I've done a good bit. I've got to fill this in with Smyrna stitches. The only color that I changed was inside the bird. I used old blue paint instead of aged pewter. I think aged pewter is beautiful, but it just looked gray once I stitched it in. It didn't look, you know, like everybody else. I want it to look like it looks in the picture on the chart, and that guy looks blue. Or gal, I don't know. So I wanted to just do it. I didn't want to order. So I was looking through, and I decided to use old blue paint. It had a really white patch in it that looked like the yarn had been tied or something when it was being dyed, and the dye didn't reach it, but that's okay. For a bird feather, that's fine. It called for burlap, and both these greens look very green. My burlap is just as yellow, golden yellow as it can be. And I did replace, it was supposed to, the leaves between the berries in the basket were all supposed to be in burlap, and I did replace those with the other green called for, which was endive or endive, or however you want to say it. But I kind of like the golden with the green. Sometimes I look at it and it looks like, you know, I think, oh, it looks like somebody sprayed herbicide and it's all turning yellow and dying. But it either looks like somebody sprayed herbicide on it or it looks vintage. So take your pick. I think I'm going to go with vintage. So I think that, and I'm just doing this on 40 count platinum, I think that I should be able, unless I'm waiting on threads or something like that, I should be able to get one of those done a month. So I'm going to stay with that. The second one that I wanted to start for the months was the Villages of Hawk Run Hollow. So I dyed a piece of 40 count Newcastle. My parents gave me gift certificates to 1-2-3 Stitch and ABC Stitch. I didn't know there were I didn't know those were 2 different companies. There was a little bit of confusion, but so I did order some charts from ABC Stitch that haven't come yet. But from 1-2-3 Stitch, I ordered threads and linen. So I just dyed this really lightly. I'm not very adventurous. And I just started block 1 of the village. I think you know what the village looks like. Now, I was going through thinking about threads, And just like with Garden Club, I don't know if my next block will be over or below. So while I was looking through here, I realized this chart for the church is missing. And then I remembered that many, many, many years ago, this is my mom's chart, by the way, that many, many years ago, she and I were going to do this together, and we started it on 32 count. And I don't know, I know we stitched the first 2 blocks. I don't remember which of us stitched which one. And then I don't know what happened. So I think that the chart for the church must still be in the bag or the box or the closet or for this. So she told me that she would look. So I may have to start going down this way. But you know, she's not going to stitch on less than 32 count, and I don't want to stitch on 32 count. So I don't know. It would be nice if we could choose a 3rd block from this, or even and I mean we in the sense of my mother and now myself, have the villages, the houses and the shores. We could take one of the houses. I like the one with the angel on top and the house and the cows. And do it as the 3rd block, and then just frame the 3 blocks together so that we wouldn't be wasting the 2 that we've already done. Now, I'm stitching this. I want to use some over dyes. I'm not using silks. I'm using DMC. This is DMC 500. This is 975. But I want to use some new threads that I've gotten. Victoria Motto sampler threads. I joined the Prim Club. This is 20 yards for $2.45. I joined the Prim Club. So some of these I got 6. I got 6 in my Prim Club for January. And then some of them I ordered online. Like this, I ordered on her eBay store because the DMC match for this one was 3776, which I knew was the fill-in for right here. They're not wildly variegated. They're subtle. And I think I saw on her blog that starting in February, she is going to do more dramatic variegation. So I'd like to put some of those in here. The water for this block is 501. And I got minted green tea for that. So I ordered the sampler club, the primitive club, 6, and I was sent 2 packs, and 2 of the ones in there were different than were in my 6-pack. And so I told her, I said, I really want those, so why don't you invoice me on PayPal for 2 extra threads, and then I'll send you the other 4 back. And she said, no, it was our mistake, just keep them all. So these are the 4 that I already have. Green Giant, Sweet Violet. You can see a lot of dramatic variation in that one. Country Apron, and Pink Petunias. Now, if you're already in the Primitive Club, you may already have these 4. But if you're not, you may want to enter a giveaway. I'm going to do 2 separate drawings because I want 2 people to get a chance to use these threads. So if you would like to be entered for a giveaway, to win two packs of Victoria. Have I even told you who it was yet? Victorian Motto Sampler Shop. And I have two of her cards, so I'll put one of her cards in each pack. In the comment section, tell me something. Tell me your favorite thing about January. Because I know January, it's kind of a letdown from all the fever of November and December. The weather's cold. People are homebound sometimes. Tell me your favorite positive thing about January. One of my favorite things about January is when everybody is home, because we have to be home. Jerry's home from work. It's cold outside. We have a gas fire. We turn on the fire. We eat soup, and there's lots of hot chocolate and lots of tea and lots of board games with the neighbors. I like that coziness of, well, as long as my power stays on and we can flush the commodes. I like that coziness of being, even though I'm in the mountains and in North Georgia, we're never truly snowbound. Never really snowbound. But I like that feeling of kind of being snowbound. Everybody's home. Daddy's home from work because he can't get on 400 and go to Atlanta. And just hot chocolate and soup all day long. That's what I like about January. Just sort of a coziness. So tell me what your favorite thing about January is. My favorite thing about January is, don't say giveaway, because I want you to win. I want somebody that follows my podcast and interacts with me on the podcast and on Instagram. I want you to win. I don't want somebody else to win. I want you to win. So, now originally, of course, overestimating my powers of endurance and patience, and I thought that I was going to do 1 square a month of that, in addition to the 1 square a month on the garden club. I think what I'm going to try to do is 1 square every 2 months. Jessica at Schoolhouse Stitcher, I think she's on block 2. I know that she's just finished up or is about to finish up the church, but I don't know if that was her second block or not. She is also going to try, I don't know, I think she said she was going to try to do 1 block in slightly less than 2 months. I don't know if that means 6 weeks, but she's working on that too. I'm not very good about leaving the house and going places. I know that there is a very vibrant Georgia cross-stitch community, and I know that they have a Hawk Run Hollow stitching get-together. I may try to do that. Saturdays, I know competition season is coming up for the girls, which will mean extra practices and going to competition for the weekend for dance. So sometimes it's tricky. Saturdays are tricky. But that is a possibility. All right, so those are my 2 year-long stitch-alongs that I'd like to work on. All right, so what have I worked on so far this year? I worked on Sue's, one more thing. Getting back to whips that I'm trying to weave into my rotation. I showed you this last year. I told you that I was going to be alternating this piece with another piece for 10 stitches a day. Yeah, didn't happen. I'm determined to finish this before February is over. This is Mary Tillinghast by Sheepish Antiques. So Sheepish Antiques, of course, is or was the sheepish designs, they're straight reproductions. And this is the 11. I can't remember how many there are. So, I know it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I know, it's ridiculous. I have to, I think, make sashing on these windows. There's a butterfly, a bee or a butterfly right there. I think they need eyeballs. She needs, is it surface embroidery or straight stitches? She needs a white bonnety thing out of straight stitches. Her arms are straight stitches. I've got 3 more of these flowers to do. And then my big debate when I do samplers is I want to stitch my own name. Well, I don't want to chart my own name and birthday in 1/1. So I just decided if I wait around to chart it, it's never going to get done. So I'm doing Mary Tillinghast, born August. I'm in the year 1772, done in the year 1772, and call it a day. And then this will go up on my blue wall. Because I know exactly which wall I want things on, the red wall or the blue wall, and it doesn't necessarily have a lot to do with the color. That doesn't make any sense. It makes sense to me. So that's something that I would like to work on maybe several times a week. I'd like to touch that for half an hour or so. So I started off my rotation on January the 1st with Susan Rambo, which is another old piece that I've woven back in. Susan Rambo, this is in, I think I told you this last time, spring 2011, or if you have the DVDs. And it was that duck that got me. And red and green. So, where I'm stuck. I did not write down which colors changes I made. Who knows why? So, this red right here, I stitched like a line next to it in several reds. I think I'm going with 814 or 815, and I'm just going to go with it because I can't wait forever. So I did work on this. I had actually, there is a cartouche here. There's several cartouches with family initials. There's a cartouche here, and it's satin stitched in a pale lavender color. And one strand of floss on this 40 count did not look right. So I stitched, a quarter of the cartouche with 2 strands. That looks ridiculous. So I just don't know what I'm going to do. Now this is 1 strand with one of the darker colors. And I think I could live with that. Mostly I worked on the squirrel some. Excuse me. Mostly what I worked on for the 3 days, was that it? Was this corner down here. Look, there's a chicken, Chelsea, and a cow. Mostly what I worked on, I did some of those birds. I did some more pears. Mostly I just stayed down in this corner and did some more on the vase. So, that's a possibility for 2018, a 2018 finish. And that's a possibility. The next thing I worked on was Earthly Treasures, which I've shown you a couple of times. I think I showed you in the last video that I restarted it on 40 count, which made me so much more happy, so much happier. Will you take the dogs out, please? So I've been working away on that. Got most of the angel done, except of course the 1/1 face. The only change I made to this was I'm using a Valdani old brick for the berries. I think it was called for terracotta, and mine was very orange. And I didn't want it to look like a Halloween piece. I wanted to leave it out on my red wall year round. So old brick has strands of terracotta in it. It has berry colors. It has a dark brick color in it. So I like the colors. I'm not crazy about the feel of Valdani floss, but I do like the colors. So that finished out my first week. Then I went back to the next week. I worked more on my marriage sampler, The Marriage of True Minds by the Drawn Thread. I'm not stitching it in silks. I'm stitching it in DMC, which makes it look very 80s and 90s. But like I've said, that's not the worst thing in the world to me. As long as there's not a goose with a blue ribbon, we're good. I got married in 1997. So what I worked on mostly here was filling in this never-ending grass. The letters I stitched 3 times because the first time I stitched words that were further down the chart instead of the first words on the chart. And then I had it like 5 stitches over. I don't know. I don't know what was going on. There are some specialty stitches. This was a modified padded Leviathan. You're not going to be able to stitch it. Michelle Farm Girl Stitcher, I need the link. I saw all those umbrella lights that you've been using. I really like those on Amazon, but I want to copy you and get the exact same ones you got. So there's some specialty stitches all through this, and I avoid them. And I say, oh, I'm going to put that off. I'm going to put that off. But really, the instructions in these drawn thread charts, they're not as thick and involved as what it looks like the Hands Across the Sea are, but I mean, they give you really good guidelines. I mean, your needle goes up here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there were 15 stitches in each one of these, but they're not bad. They're really, really good illustrations. So that's that. My 21st anniversary will be this February. So I started this last year after we've been married 20 years. So I'm still going to put at the bottom, it says 20 tempestuous years, and I'm going to still put that and put the dates from last year when I started it. All right, then I had some heartbreak. I really, really adore this design. The Heart Lives Where It Loves by the Scarlet House. I love this. I desperately want this in my home. But I've worked on it 3 times on 3 different pieces of fabric. And I just ordered a 4th piece of fabric because I just can't deal with it. This is where I am right now on 32 count. I tried it on a light, I don't remember what it was. It was a very pale 40 count. Then I tried it on a darker 40 count, which was light exemplar. But it's all this red. It's all that dark red. I don't want to see so much white underneath it. So then I said, well, I'll just do it on 32 count, and it'll be nice and big, like a big tapestry. You can't, I don't know if you can see it or not. That's just too much white. Well, is it? Is that too much white? I don't know. I mean, every day I think differently. I think that's too much white showing through. This is where I am. I'm almost down the side. So I didn't like it with 1 thread over 40 count. I don't like it. I mean, I kind of like it, but I don't like it with 2 threads over 32 count. I'm not doing 3 threads. So I think I'm going to do 2 threads over 35 count. I've done that once before, 20 years ago. And I don't know. I don't know what to do. I'm going to try that. I'm not going to pull, obviously, I'm not going to pull all that out. But I'm going to try 2 threads over 35 count. And if that doesn't work, I really don't know what I'm going to do, because I want it. I really want it, but I want it to look really, really good. So I ended the week working on The Promise by the Cricut Collection. And this was the chart that I showed a little bitty bit of on Instagram to show you that I was absolutely going nuts, because this flower, or these 3 flowers, you see how it alternates between the dark and the light pink. Well, the symbols on the chart are a dot and a smaller dot. I mean, this is Cricut Collection, and this is number 51, so they've been doing that a while. That was not good charting. Not good charting. So here's where I am. I worked a little more on the daffodil. I did all these during the 3 days. I did all of this, and then some of this daffodil and some of the green leaves. So that's fun. It's a really fun departure from what I usually do, which is samplers or sampler looking designs. So that's a fun departure. Then yesterday I started the Heaven and Earth. And then today I'm going to work on my Daughters of Longbourn. I got a one of the Victorian Motto sampler threads that I got. I think it's called Banana Cream. And I really, really hope it's in the bag already with Daughters of Longbourn. It's a pale yellow. The called for yellow in the Daughters of Longbourn was tufted yellow, which really looks, it's not very pretty. So that's my rotation. So I wanted to show you really quickly some things that I want. Oh, look, here it is. Here's Banana Cream. I may do the House of Longbourn in Banana Cream. All right, so I want to show you some things that I want to get done, or that I might want to start this year. The first thing that I want to show you, I want to show you a couple of older finishes. I told you that when I'm planning, I think of things that'll go on the blue sampler wall, and I think of things that I want to go on the red sampler wall. And now in my head, I'm planning another sampler wall. And I was kind of hoping Jerry wouldn't be in here when I said this. I want this to be my John Cougar Mellencamp wall. Can you guess why? Guess why? Okay, it's samplers, John Cougar Mellencamp. Can you guess what all these samplers would have in common? Say it. Say it loudly so everybody can hear you. Come on, you can sing it if you want to. Little Pink Houses. Clever, huh? A John Cougar Mellencamp sampler wall. I'm a funny girl. So this, I already have 2 stitched up. This is an old Sheepish Designs called Against Every Sin, I think is what that's called. So I did this in 2017. You didn't know that was coming, did you? That was pretty good, wasn't it? That was pretty good. I stitched this in 2017, and it has a pink house. That may be, I don't know if that's 407. That's not 407. Maybe 407. I'm not sure. It's a peachy pink house. I kind of think this will fit in an 8x10 frame. I hope. So that would be my first thing on the little pink houses. Now you remember I told you Sheepish Designs, there were 2, I think they were sisters-in-law, Dawn Bradford and Cynthia Bradford. Cynthia Bradford started her own design company, Little by Little Designs, and that's who designed Little by Little Design Company. That is who designed the Not Even a Mouse yellow tabby cat ornament that I showed you at the very beginning. So this is called, I don't think I have the chart anymore. This may be called Pink House Sampler by Little Design Company. I like those flowers. And this is just DMC. If I am right, oh teach my heart. No. If I am right, oh teach my heart, still in the right to stay. If I am wrong, thy grace impart to find that better way. And I stitched this in 2012. And it's DMC, and it has like a funny little place there, I guess to look like an old sampler where some of the dye from that thread has faded. I think it's called Pink House Sampler. So anyways, those would be my first two pieces for my John Cougar Mellencamp sampler wall. Now this, I found this today, and this was a freebie by Sheepish Designs on my Pinterest freebie where I put the charts, the free charts I find. I know that this is on there. This was a freebie by Sheepish Designs years and years ago. I did it in 2009. I don't think it's charted for all this straight stitch. No, you know what I did? That's not straight stitch. Are those Scotch squares where you do it diagonally? You do the satin stitching diagonally? I don't know. It's kind of warped. I would really have to stretch it out. I don't know that I would put this on my little pink houses wall. I might. You got my little black kitty Merlin, who died in 2016 or 2015 on there. But it is a pink house. So there are two samplers that I would really like to start this year with pink houses. This one is Chessie and Me. I've had this forever. Kindred House Sampler. And it's a real picture, so there's going to be some glare. And it says, let kindred spirits dwell within this house. And it has some specialty stitches on the house. Smyrna stitches, brick stitch, and satin stitch in cinnabar and cherub. So the house is made up of specialty stitches. So I'd like to start that at some point this year. And then this house is actually stitched in 632. So again, kind of a brownie pink. This is a Merrily Beams, and this is from a long time ago. I don't see a date. My mother had 4 or 5 Merrily Beams designs that I've borrowed. This may be one that I got from her, or I've gotten several on Stash Unload. I got one this week on Stash Unload. It says, may heaven protect our home from flame or hurt or harm or various name, and may no evil luck betide to any who therein abide. I think it's very pretty. I think I had one more pink house sampler that was a UI and Friends. I think I was just looking at it, but I don't know. All right, so some other things that I want to start this year. You may already be bored of this. All I have left to talk about or to show you some things that I've picked out that I would like to start this year, and then a crochet blanket that I've been working on. So I've been talking for an hour. So if you want to stick around and look at some stash with me, this is not all my stash. This is just the things that I'd kind of like to get to this year. I really want to stitch. Remember when you could find all these charts at Hobby Lobby? 60 cents. This is the Cross-Eyed Cricket collection. And this is Thoughts of Father. And I'd really like to do this year for my dad. It says, Prophet and Fan Club, Counselor on Call, Childhood Foundation, Guardian of Truth, Character Model, Champion of Dreams. And that's a pretty good description. The only problem that I'm up against right now is this variegated thread that all the words are done in. I'm having trouble finding a variegated thread that I like. It was done in Silken Colors Autumn Bouquet, and I think, no, you know what? That's not what I ordered. I ordered a thread, and then it was actually a pearl cotton, and not what I thought it was going to be. And now I've got one coming from 123 Stitch, but I think it's called Autumn Woods. My problem is, my dad likes blue. A lot of these, multicolor, it's going to have some purple in it. And I don't know. I can't see my dad in purple or having purple hanging on the wall. I don't know. So I'm going to look and see what I've got coming. But I like the variegated words. And I don't know how to pick just one color because the large letters that spell out Father are each done in a color that would coordinate with this variegated. So anyways, that's one I'd like to start. Later this week, I'm going to have my autumn slot in my rotation, and I'm going to be Michelle, Farm Girl Stitcher, and stitch, is this Harvest Time? Harvest Time. I think I've showed you this. I want to do that, and then I want to be just like Michelle, Farm Girl Stitcher, and do the Christmas and the Village Green, because that girl has good ideas. This is that yucky, flimsy paper from the reprints. I got this on Stash Unload. This, I look at this and I think, oh, I could do that in 3 hours. This is Lottie Da. I had never seen this before. Alone in the Garden. I could put that on my red wall. I'd never seen this one before. I like that a lot. This one I got last year. And I think I told you last year I wanted to do it. The Scarlet House, Mary Rowe, 1808. I love that hillocks. I was driving somewhere a couple of weeks ago, and I almost slammed on the brakes, and I realized I couldn't slam on the brakes and stop the car on the side of the road. But I saw this little plot of land, and it had these little hillocks, and it looked just like what we're always stitching on samplers. It looked so much like a sampler to me. It didn't have pink and, all the pretty colors that we put in it, but it looked so much like that to me. Let's see, I can't show you that. Some of these are, this, I'm very happy to see that the Good Housewife or the Good Huswife, Mary Margaret's boyfriend yesterday was here, and he did art in high school. Well, he's still doing dual enrollment his senior year of high school, and he was an art student. And now he's taking dual enrollment college core classes, and he hasn't been able to do a lot of art, and it's really driving him crazy because he's working, he's doing his college dual enrollment, and I really need some art. And he said, will you teach me how to cross stitch? And he asks me that all the time. And so yesterday I said, okay. And I found this Ink Circles free pattern four in a bush, four in a hand. It was one of the small, really small mandalas. And I said, just pick out some colors and I'll go upstairs and see what kind of fabric I have. The only Aida I could find was 11 count Aida. So he had just sent me a text message that says he's making a lot of progress. Wife into thy garden. Wife into thy garden, and I don't know if this is set me or get me a plot. Get me and plot with strawberry roots of the best to be got. Such growing abroad among thorns in the wood, well chosen and picked, prove excellent good. And I don't know if that's a quotation from something. I think the gardening series were quotations from something, but it's so simple. I mean, how can something so simple, capture your mind like this? I'm so glad that The Good Housewife is reprinting her charts because they go for crazy, crazy town prices. And I have a couple more in the gardening series, but there are some others I would really like. But that's just so simple and so pretty. That is just so attractive to me. And I have wanted to stitch this forever and ever and ever. So I'd really like to start that this year. Autumn Blessings. I think this is Carriage House Samplings. After I finish the Harvest Town Prairie Schooler, I'd like to do this. Somebody else said they were going to do this. Somebody said, I love penny rugs. Was it Jessica at Schoolhouse Stitcher? Was it Kindred Stitcher? I need to keep my notebook with me when I'm watching. Now, the next thing I'm going to start, hopefully either when I finish Earthly Treasures or if I finish Flora this month, I am going to start Isabella Johnstone. Nicole at Nicole Needleworks showed this when she was going through some of her Sampler and Antique quarterly magazines. And she said that she thought she would like to get rid of those magazines now that she has the DVD that has everything on it. And I wanted to say, no, don't do that. But Nicole's different than I am. I'm a pack rat. I'm a hobbit. Nicole can let things go. So maybe that's a good choice for her. But for me, even though I have the first two DVDs, so I think that they went to 2011. So now I do, maybe for my birthday, want to get the one CD compilation that has everything on it. I love flipping through my Sampler and Antique quarterly magazines. I do not love flipping through the DVDs. But I like clutter, and I don't think Nicole does. This was summer 2010, and sometimes I toy with making this too. Isabella Johnstone, I think I started it right when it came out. And I think what I had done is I maybe started next to an under thread instead of an over thread. I don't know, something about it just wasn't right. I can't find it. But I am going to start this in the next few weeks. And I really want to use that PRO 34 Silks for You red. I think in the chart it calls for Belsois silk in Poison Apple, and it actually says use the darker bits for the red and use the lighter bits for the pink. There's two different symbols. I think I'm going to use a pink and then the red. And I think what I might do is save this red alphabet for last, stitch the border and stitch everything, and then save that red border for last just so that it won't be in my hand constantly. And there's my working copy of this. This is another Merrily Beams. I want to start this one for my mom. My mom's birthday is in July. And wouldn't that be wonderful if I could get my dad's finished for Father's Day in June and then get this finished for my mom in July. My parents know me. They know that will probably never happen. I don't plan well. My dad's a psychologist. among other things. And he's written books. And I featured in a section of one of the books, the section on chaos. So always remember that when I tell you what my plans are. I got this on Stash Unload. This was one of the first things I got on Stash Unload. Prize Your Liberty by Merrily Beams. And this has that clean prairie schooler feel. Everything just looks, it's simple and it's clean and it's very attractive. I need to cut and dye a piece of linen for this, and I'm doing it on 40 count. And what I want to do is I want to use anchor threads. So I was looking online for anchor and DMC conversions because remember Kitten Stitcher was saying that anchor threads seem to be thicker. And I said, looking at that piece I had done a long time ago, the bright needle piece I had done in anchor threads, 1/2 on 32 count looked great. So I thought, especially since, this dark blue, I'd like to use anchor threads. So I tried to make a conversion to anchor threads, and I ordered some from 123 Stitch, and they came, and some of them were okay. The red wasn't good, so I've tried to order some more, and if that doesn't work, then I'll just use DMC and not worry about it. But that's Prize Your Liberty by Merrily Beams. And this, when I tell you I have all these sampler walls in my head that I plan for, this is for my mom's Americana wall. I've already told her where I want it to be, which pictures and things she's going to have to take off the wall. She knows me, so she knows it's not going to happen anytime soon, so she's not real worried. But I'd like to do that. I've gotten 3 of these sampler stockings. I always thought that was really, really weird. I remember I saw Siobhan Stitch. I think she had a sampler stocking hanging up on her mantle house, on her Blue Hen Hollow blog. It seems like Vanna has them, and I just always thought it was weird. But now I think it's kind of attractive, and I'd like some. So I got that. This is a contender, Little House Needleworks, the Elizabeth Hancock sampler. It's a lot of white stitching, so we'll see about that. This has to get started soon. I've had it forever. That has to get started. Now this is a small one, so this could get started pretty easily. And this would go on my blue wall. Oh, may my feet never run astray, nor rove, nor seek the crooked way. Now, this is by Chart Makers. Chart Makers were Kathy Barrick, the Good Housewife lady, and somebody else, maybe. It was a group of ladies, a group of designers. So I really like that. And I'm not crazy about that yellowy color in there. We'll have to see about that. I want to start this. That Mischievous Stitches sent to me a Darlene Steen red sampler. I need a red sampler to work on. I don't have a red sampler right now, and I want one. This is another Lottie Da. The Savior's Love, and it's the verse is about, and they brought unto him also infants, that he would touch them. But when his disciples saw it, they rebuked him. But Jesus called them unto him and said, Suffer little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of God. I homeschool, and I thought it says St. Mary's Girls' School. I have a girls' homeschool because I only have daughters. Usually on official documents, I just put our last name, homeschool. Make it easy for them. But I've always called it Regina Caeli Homeschool, which means Queen of Heaven Homeschool. Which is St. Mary, so that's fine. I'd kind of like to do this, even though I only have 4.5 years left of homeschool. That just really, I don't know. But I'd still like to have this as a memento of our homeschooling years. This is another la-di-da. It looks like I raided my whole la-di-da basket. Know ye that the Lord is God. It is he hath made us. We are the people. We are his people and the sheep of his pasture. Did I just show you the... Oh, no, that's it. It's a funky Adam and Eve. Woodstock Adam and Eve. That I got a long time ago when I had a local needle workshop. It had been in Blairsville. It had moved to Hiawassee. And then it moved near the Mall of Georgia. This is a small la-di-da again. Act justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. That looks like one that I might just start recklessly sometime and be able to finish it up. I'm going to finish that weird rabbit. I'm excited about that. I'm starting a lot of things this year, aren't I? Belatedly, I want to do that. Plum Street Samplers, Hello Winter. I want to do all of them. I want to do this as for my schoolroom too. Labor for Learning, Paulette Stewart. Make use of present time. What's this? There's so many threads in here I can't see what the short is. Oh. This might be my second start. 1,000 Hills. After I start Isabella Johnstone. The charts that I said that I ordered from ABC, I ordered Never Let You Go by Heartstring Sampler. The rest of these, and some of the hometown holiday. The rest of these are working copies I made of Christmas ornaments that I want to do. I was going to do a Christmas ornament a month, but I think I'm already pushing it. This one I've already done, but I want to do Ivana and make this into an ornament by itself. For some reason, I thought, okay, so I'm going to sit down with all my Just Cross Stitch magazines, and I'm going to make a working copy of every ornament that I might want to do this year, and then I'm going to put it in a gallon-size Ziploc bag. And so I go through... I don't even think I brought all my gallon size. So I have this huge stack of gallon size Ziploc bags with working copies in it. And then I'm like, oh, why did I do that? I mean, I'm not going to go ahead. I mean, I guess I thought I was going to go ahead and put the floss in the... I thought I was going to actually kit it up. But I lost interest and didn't do that. All right, so that's a lot of cross stitch plans. So what I want to do now, just show you really quickly. Oh, I wish I'd brought some of the other ones. If you like color and if you like crochet, you would love Attic 24's blog if you don't already know it and love it. She has a really interesting sense of color, and it's not my sense of color. My sense of color is red and green, blue and green, black and brown, teal and teal, this mauve and dark mauve. That's my sense of color. Her sense of color is amazing. She reminds me a little bit of my grandmother. My grandmother has made so many crochet blankets, and that's what I want to show you next time. I want to show you some of the crochet blankets my grandmother has made and put together. Sometimes we look at them and we think, those are some really strange colors. Well, over the summer, I was working on a crochet blanket that I have since put away because my grandmother told me it just wasn't going to make. I needed to stop now. She said I was missing too many stitches in my squares, and it was just never going to work. Anyways, while we were working on this together, before she told me to put it away because I just wasn't doing it right, she told me that all colors match all colors. And that's, when I go to Lucy's blog, it looks like that's true. that all colors match all colors. Her Afghans or her blankets that she makes have usually 15 different colors in them. Because you can buy her yarn packs at Wool Warehouse. And I think 15 to 17 colors is about what she usually works with. And that's a lot of colors. So I've made 3 of her blankets. I made the granny's, and I ordered all my wool from Wool Warehouse in the UK. Shipping was very reasonable. Shipping time was very, very quick. Um, and the yarn was cheaper than what I could get in this country. Um, I made the granny stripe, and then I made the autumn stripe, and I think it's called the summer meadow blanket, and I love them. It's DK weight yarn. My grandmother calls that baby weight yarn. It's not worsted weight or number 4 yarn. So it drapes a little bit better, I think. So she usually does a stitch along. She usually does 1 or 2 stitch alongs a year. And the pattern she provides free on her blog. And some people use the yarn pack from Stylecraft Special DK yarn. And some people, something's just gotten me going all of a sudden. This blanket. Some people use their own color conversions. Some people prefer wool, and they use wool, or they prefer another yarn, another acrylic yarn. This right now, she is doing a stitch along, a crochet along, called the woodland blanket, maybe, and it is very similar to the cowl that she did last January. And I bought all the yarn. Did you say something? And I bought all the yarn for it, but I didn't complete it. But I started it this year. This is called the Moorland blanket. And her blog posts are picture heavy. And these 2 blankets, she calls them story blankets. I think of it as kind of a concept blanket. It starts at the bottom, and you see the landscape develop from the ground up, eventually into the trees in the woodland blanket, and the heather in the moorland blanket, and then into the sky. And the other blankets are just her random stripe placements. And I think with the woodland blanket, she is also giving you a random stripe placement in case you don't want to do this, ground to sky look. And I think with the woodland blanket, I think I am going to go back to I want to do that one too. I think I am going to go back and do the random placement. But I'm pretty happy with the moorland blanket, doing it as a story or concept. I just don't think I need to do that every time. So this is the ground, the earth. And you start getting little pops of purple. And then you start getting more and more pops of purple. And I think I'm about halfway through. No, not quite halfway through. But you see I'm getting more and more purple. Eventually there will be more and more purple. And then it will go into pale blues and pale lavenders. And that'll be the sky. So, and this is I can't remember, a neat wave. And she has very, very detailed instructions and very detailed pictures and very detailed, you can read the words or you can see the symbols written out as a chart, for how to do this, and her ripple pattern, and some of the other patterns that she's done. She gives you a tension guide. This, I think this was the first blanket that she gave a tension guide. Usually she uses a G crochet hook. This one, I'm actually using a 7, which is between a G and an H. So if a G is 4 millimeter, a 7 is 4.5 millimeter. And I got the right, it looks very loose to me, but it's very drapey. and my tension gauge it matched up with a 7. So even if you just want to look, I mean, the way she works, the way the colors work together, just really amazes me. So I hope you've enjoyed looking through my projects and looking through some of my projected projects for 2018. Remember what we talked about earlier in the video. There's 2 more somewhere, because I'm going to draw 2 winners. Don't say giveaway. Just tell me what you like best about January, and I will try to be back in a couple of weeks. I have a couple more giveaways planned for the next couple podcasts. Maybe some sheepish designs charts. Oh, I didn't even show you any of the sheepish design charts that I want to work on. Well, I'll show those next time, and we'll have a sheepish design chart giveaway. So until then, I hope you enjoy your own stitching, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.